I'm an employee of the Unified Court System. I work at Surrogates Court. I've been in the court system for about 14 years now. In the evenings, I'm a graphic designer, photographer. I have a weekly party that I've been doing for about 2.5 years called Weekend Warm Up. And I'm here to talk about credit and some other fun stuff today. Thanks for having me.
Hey everyone, Tahira from Queens. I'm an educator for the Department of Education. I came to this show because I have a large interest in financial literacy, and a lot of times I help friends. So I said, let me come out and share the advice more globally.
Hey there, I'm Tom, and I'm also from Queens, and I currently work at Berkeley College. I head up a team that is focused exclusively on financial literacy, so happy to be here. And I have about a 30-odd year background in higher education finance, so I can provide hopefully some good information about paying for college.
Hi, my name is Leslie James. I'm from the Bronx. I'm a research assistant at a hospital in the city. I mostly came to take notes. I brought my W-2s. I'm hoping to get my taxes done before I leave. So I'm just happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Demetrius John. I'm from the Bronx. I'm an artist, photographer, and I'm very happy to be here.
Agree with that definition. I think at least what we try to do at Berkeley is we try to give the sort of bedrock of information so people know what terms mean. So if they're having discussions with somebody about a mortgage or about investing, they know they have a basic understanding of the terms and what they mean, so that they have a better bedrock of information to make choices. I mean, the whole point of financial literacy is to be informed so you can make smart choices for yourself about your financial future. So I would tend to agree with what was said.
You know, maybe you want to put it simpler, keep from going broke.
Stay away from broke.
Yeah, stay away from broke, stay out of the red, stay in the black. And how to make your money, I guess, make money, passively. If you got to be there to make money or to actually see your money being made, you're probably not using it correctly. When you go to work, you have an active hand in making that money versus you squirreling money away and putting it into an account or buying stocks or bonds where it's making money while you're asleep. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do anything with that. Or you do, if you're using like E-Trade or something like that, you go online, throw some money somewhere, pick an account, walk away. And hopefully it just grows while you're doing whatever you got to do. So you don't really have an active hand aside from, directing where it goes. Other than that, it's working by itself.
It's the idea of understanding and comprehension. So you must understand yourself first and where you stand in terms of your finances and how you can then make strategic decisions based on your understanding of your finances and the world around you. Credit, like Jay-Z said it, credit is key. I think credit is one of the most, and I wrote this down when I was taking my little notes earlier, credit is like one of the most important things you can have in America. Besides an education, besides cash money, credit speaks volumes. And if you don't have credit, you really have limits on what you can do financially.
I would agree with that. I would also add that, sitting down and looking at your finances and getting an accurate picture of where you stand financially. And that could involve, sitting down and coming up with a budget. And just because a lot of people, and I do it all the time, you spend money and you don't know where you're spending it. And it's even $1 here, $1 there, it goes. And if you add all that up, I mean, that could be money you could use to invest in something, to buy some stock or a bond or put it in the bank or whatever, however you want to invest it. So, yeah, sitting down and, looking at where you spend your money, be honest about how you spend your money, and see where you can make changes in the way you spend your money is sort of the building block, I think, for, building a better future.
Second to credit, I think savings and being able to, as you said, create a budget and stick to it. I know my friends are very mixy. Everyone has a birthday. Everyone likes to do brunch every Sunday. It's
a new thing.
Yeah, it's cute until
Starbucks coffees every day.
Exactly, yeah. So I actually switched over to trying to, carry more cash, just in the sense that I don't swipe everything, because then you really see when your wallet is empty, you realize that that $100 didn't make me through the week. What am I doing? Yeah, when I took out the money and I was like, okay, $100, that should last me like 2 weeks, and by day 2.
I think financial freedom is that. So whatever that is defined by the individual. I don't think financial freedom looks the same for everyone. I think it's important in terms of what both of you said, in terms of the budgeting and it's like, I call it the envelope strategy, which is like you take out a certain amount of money and you say, this is what I'm going to spend on this. And then what it helps you to do also is it helps you to see where you spend. So maybe this is what I spend on gas or transportation. This is what I spend on food. And here's my leisure money. And then as you're spending on these things, you're taking out just to kind of test yourself to see where it is. And you say, wait, I'm spending a lot more money on this leisure than I need to. And maybe you can kind of shuffle things around. So that's very, very good advice.
Maybe instead of having a brunch at a restaurant, you could have that at your place, your friend's place. You bring drinks. If there's a chef there, you can chef it up. Make some food. Everybody saves money.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about in our workshops at Berkeley is the difference between wants and needs, which everybody wants to eat at a fancy restaurant, right, and spend all sorts of money at a fancy restaurant. But the need to eat could be satisfied by going to the grocery store and just buying whatever. I mean, so you have to make some compromises, but at the end of the day, it's a trade-off. You may end up with more money at the end of the month to use that for something else.
I actually don't go to the ATM at all unless I'm going somewhere that I have to use cash only. The only reason that I use my credit cards for everything, because I have all of my accounts linked to Mint. And I constantly monitor the accounts the categories that I spend the most in. So Mint is a financial app that you can add all of your accounts to, savings, credit cards.
Yeah, I've heard of that. It's a good app.
Yeah, credit cards, Venmo. You can add pretty much every account that you have, all of your bills, and you can see where your due dates are coming up. That was one thing I had to learn too. I try to commit due dates to memory, and you be doing so much stuff. Forget about it. It's not good. So at least I go into Mint, and it will add those due dates to your calendar on your phone, whether you have Android or iOS. You scroll through, see when your bills are due to tell you, your statement balances, what categories you spend the most in, your trends, versus the prior month. It showed me that in December, I spent a ton of money, way more than I spent in the month prior, because it was the holiday season. So it shows you trending upward. It gives you your credit score every so often. So it's a great app to have. That, and I think the other one is Personal Capital. That one, and they all also manage stocks and bonds. If you want to add those accounts, if you have brokerage accounts, you can add those to it also and keep track of your spending.
That's great.
Cool.
Yeah, because for me it was just hard to manage all the paper receipts after a while. But I keep them for the end of the year when I have to do taxes and stuff like that. But on the go, to have a sense of what I do, it's just all in there.
Is it free?
Free, absolutely free.
That's right.
I'm cheap. It's definitely free.
Well, I mean, historically, I think the American dream has been defined by home ownership, and obviously, your credit will factor into that considerably. We do something else. We have a chart at Berkeley that shows, if somebody was to go and get a mortgage, like a $200,000 mortgage, and their credit score is really good, what interest they would be charged for that loan, as opposed to somebody with poor credit, what interest they would be charged for the very same loan. And the difference is so dramatic. I mean, the guy who's got poor credit really pays a lot more money in it, because he's much more of a risk from the lender's standpoint. So, literally, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, everybody in my community, I think we grew up believing that cash was king. And it's a huge lie, because most people that are rich don't use their own money to buy anything. They use other people's money to buy stuff. People will buy a house, take out the equity in that house, go buy another house, take out the equity in that one, go buy something else. But the money that they got initially was from the bank. It wasn't even really theirs, aside from the down payment. So once you realize the game is, structured that way, it's damn, they've been lying to us all this time. We really should have got our credit on.
I think education plays a role in the American dream story, and the idea that, once you get education, you can do do whatever. But the way student loan debt is,
Man.
It's like
the way that's stacking up.
Also the field, you know, if you're graduate with an engineering degree,
Oh yeah, forget about it.
you're
Yeah, you're
with a
set.
bachelor's degree, you're
Yeah.
in good shape.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to
with
art
the
history.
psychology,
Yeah.
or psychology.
Or even
Philosophy.
even law now,
No
because
shade,
law
no shade, no
is
shade.
it's such an oversaturated field.
Right,
You know what law degrees used to cost versus what they cost now are night and day. It's like
and the jobs aren't there
yeah,
anymore.
and
law.
actually, there's a great New York Times piece that was written about it, like what first year associates are making, and there's a ton of comments, you know, where they're like, no, this is not like the average salary for first year associates because it depends on where you land at, the firms that you land in, what your area of expertise is, and so on and so forth. So you know, you would think that you read these salary scales, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this when I come out. It's all a pipe dream.
Yeah. No, you're going to be a public defender,
Yeah. And you're gonna try to work the 10 years to get your loans forgiven, and you're gonna keep stepping after that. But it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to something our conversation earlier, and I said research. I
Right.
don't know how to say it any better to anyone that you must research everything before you make a decision, because then you'll be able to see the direction. Some people might be able to go to school and have several degrees and are in a good state, and others might not. I remember several years ago I went to training, and it was a financial literacy training through the DOE, and the presenter said something that was so key for me. He said, people get different degrees. He said, you know what degree actually makes the most money if you get a PhD in it? Accountant. He said, you have to look at the fact that when those positions, not too many people go into it, so it's not flooded, and there's so much potential. Now everyone wants to be a lawyer, because you have to think about the fact, social media. Everyone's like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do this. I want to do that. And they follow the trends, and they don't do the research, and they don't realize that sometimes things are oversaturated.
Is it worth chasing a degree in something that you aren't really passionate about to make more money?
It depends.
Somebody that's like, hey, you know, I would love to be a lawyer, but this engineering degree is going to pay me a boatload of money. Or if I wanted to be a computer programmer, it's going to pay me a boatload of money, so I'll go get this degree. But if you don't last in that field, was it worth it?
Well, see, and this is something I tell my students all the time. I said it's about balance. So first thing I said was research. Second thing is figuring out your balance. You have to see if the money is worth it. You have to be realistic with yourself. So yes, from a person who's maybe under 25, and I say because that's a certain age where they just have this burst of excitement and they just want to make money. And then when you get into the fields and you're there for 10 years, 15 years, and you're like, I hate this job. But you won't know until you kind of venture into it. What I will say is don't stay anywhere for too long. So constantly assess, reflect on what you're doing. And this is still dealing with financial literacy and seeing how can you make adjustments to your current state.
Of course, if you can get into an Ivy League school, that's great. But, you know, if you could go to a city school and major in like accounting and, you know, pay less for school and make that good salary. I know with MBAs it might be different because you do kind of need that name and you want to have that network around you. But I think it's important to, you know, open your horizons.
So think about undergrad and then grad school. So you can go to undergrad that's maybe a community college, work your ass off, and be the top tier so that you can get into a better school.
And it's interesting. This is actually a strategy that people use. Is they start at community colleges for the first 2 years, and a lot of the community colleges have arrangements with the 4-year schools where they'll accept all the credits up front. So you do your first 60 credits for your bachelor's at the community college at a lot less cost probably. Then you move on to whatever college they have an affinity with, finish the final 2 years, and your degree will say bachelor's degree from that other school. And you got the degree for a lot less money. It's got to start earlier, and all elementary, absolutely, and all the like studies that have been done, and say that is a goal that we need to teach this stuff a lot earlier than we do. We don't do it now. I mean, not at the high school level. We do it a little at the college level, but they need to start a lot earlier to know what interest rate, how is an interest calculated, what's credit cards. What's a mortgage? All these concepts, they just don't know about them, and it costs them money at the end. Well, you should look at like the discipline you're studying, what kind of career, what are the average salaries for the career you're thinking of pursuing? If it's $40,000 dollars top that you can make, maybe you want to rethink about going to that private institution that you're going to end up $60, $70, $80,000 in debt and maybe get the same degree at a public institution where the cost is less. But if cost is an issue for you, then you got to, again, going back to doing the research, do your research, compare costs, and see what the average debt is. Like students, I mean, all this stuff is out there on the web. Schools are required, frankly, to provide this on their website. So it's all out there. It's transparent for people to do and do the research. It's just people are not used to doing the research. I mean, when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, that's the last thing on your mind. You want to go to the schools that your friends are going to. Or maybe you like the sports team, the football team. I mean, these are, kind of decisions, the reasons kids make decisions. And they're not necessarily the best.
There's grants out there. There's scholarships. And we're like, why are we missing we keep talking about loans. You don't have to take a loan to go to school. Again, back to research. So you have to be willing to take that onus and say, you know what? I don't want to pay $60,000, $70,000 to school. How can I get somebody else to pay? Someone to invest in me. Maybe even if you have, and there's so many young entrepreneurs now, you have like a business idea. And you tell someone, listen, I have this idea. Can you help invest in me in this business? Because then I'll be able to go to school and take it to the next level. You have to sell yourself. So there's so many options to be able to pay for school that doesn't have to come out of your own pocket.
So I think a lot of reasons why people don't, get more grants and scholarships because financially they may not qualify for it. You may fall into a range where you make too much to be considered for some of these things, but you also don't have the ability financially to pay for it on your own. So you're stuck in between both of those points, and the loan is your only option if you really want to go. So it's like you got to either be like really poor to qualify for a lot of these things, be super gifted academically to get scholarships. And there's a bunch of obscure grants out there, definitely like scholarships that you may qualify and you could chip away at whatever your tuition is. But they also have requirements, that you have to go to a school and maintain this GPA and do X, Y, and Z to qualify for this and have it paid for. So a lot of people don't want to deal with those strings. They're just like, hey, I'll just take the loan.
The counselors in schools were the ones who were supposed to be working with students, but they had so many students, they didn't have a very close-knit relationship. So if you were a student that would go to these offices and really advocate for yourself, you'll get the help. Most students didn't do that. Now is a very big push, specifically in the DOE. I don't know how it is in private sectors.
Specifically in the
DOE, the Department of Education, New York State Department of Education, for college and career readiness, because they notice that what you guys are talking about, that students get to college and they have no clue. They have no clue in terms of academics. They have no clue in terms of finances. They have no clue. Within everything that you do in the classroom, they expect there to be some kind of element of helping students prepare for the world of college and careers. It's big. You can look it up. There's a lot of research on it now.
Just like some, it's like maybe school wasn't exactly for them, or some of them, in family members stuff may have not finished. So it's just like, okay, so go to trade school. And now, as you guys know, when that trade school comes, it's very good, but it's going to be expensive. That may not be for everybody. So then it's just like not full understanding of the dynamic of what it is now, and not having that knowledge of financial literacy. It's a bunch of stuff that they wasn't taught themselves. So it's just like they're learning as you're learning. And if you're not learning from where you're at in school, then it's just they don't know. But it's back to how you said, it's research, what a lot of more people are doing now, and just educating themselves to, eat like everybody else, and be better off with it.
I think we use our peers as a marker of our own success, right, wrong, or indifferent. And once you start sitting around a table and you talk about salaries, it's like, wait, we're all the same age. What the hell am I doing? If you're that friend that's not, that feels that they don't measure up. But once you, table your ego, yeah, it's the truth, because I've seen it happen before. But once you table that, you realize, one, making a bunch of money doesn't always mean you're happy. And two, depending on, who your friends are, they can probably help you get to making that amount of money too. It's like, hey, how did you do X, Y, and Z? I was like, oh, okay, I did this. I went out and I spoke to this person. I joined this organization. So once you, put ego aside and realize that your friends are a source of information that'll help you get to the next level, I think everybody would be better off.
Yeah, I think people attach a lot of stigma or shame to, your financial position. So if you're somebody who's got like a heap of debt, right? And you look at that and you say, how did I get myself into this? And if somebody looks at this, are they going to judge me in a certain way? So it becomes a difficult conversation to have with others as well as yourself.
Social media has changed the dynamic so much. Like, I even see myself, and I'm putting myself out there, that sometimes I'm scrolling on Instagram and you're looking at these different people you follow, and you're like, wow, they have this and they have that, and you start to have these thoughts in your head like, dag, I'm not there yet. And what happens is you don't realize that many things they do is to kind of put on this persona, like this facade, like, oh, I have money, and really and truly, yeah, they don't have money. It looks like they have money. People that go to the club and they're popping bottles and they're spending like $400, and then they come to work on Monday. Can I borrow $5 for lunch? And you're like, but you just in the club.
Hey fam, I just saw you on Instagram pouring
Right.
champagne.
You had the whole Gucci
Why am I
outfit on.
buying?
Yeah,
Right
what's
now.
wrong with this picture?
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's a societal misconception. Like, I see people at the bus stop with like the most expensive things, and I'm like, you have more than you probably pay in rent, and if you would take that money, you could own a home, which would then lead you to more financial freedom and success. But social media and society creates these norms nowadays that people feel that they have to present themselves in a way. So therefore, if they're not financially stable, they don't want the people around them to know that, because it would make them feel inadequate. We don't see ourselves
Don't touch
as a bill. We are a bill. Forget Con Ed and the mortgage and the phone bill. You are the most important bill.
Pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first. Because guess what? I had this, I'm just thinking about things that I've seen, and it works. I had this loan from MCU, which is a credit union, and it was like $350 a month.
$350?
Well, the loan was this like years ago. It was like $350 a month, right? And I made them take out an extra $200 to save. So when the loan ended back in 2015, I said, you know what? Just keep taking out the entire $550. I couldn't believe that within a period of a year, I saved like $7 to $8 grand.
Yeah, there you go.
If I allowed that money to come back into my check, I would have nothing.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? You were a bill, but guess what? Now I'm an even better bill. And then I also make sure I save extra money. Savings, so important.
Just the other day, I had to fight to get the lady at McDonald's to take 10% off of my dollar fries. Like, things haven't been going well too well. But 2018 is a new year. But yeah, like I said, switching from, swiping to depending more so on cash, and seeing how it's flowing out, and being able to see when things are drying up and I need to tighten my belt. I need to stop eating out. That's number one. But as we said before about cooking at home. But yeah, that's supposed to be my lunch budget. And then I run out by like Wednesday. I'm like, what am I doing? So yeah, I'll turn this to you and the people who are good at doing budgets while I take the notes.
I still bring my lunch to work. I'm kind of
yes.
proud of myself.
Yeah.
It saves me a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's the same meal every day.
Listen, don't let his wife hear that.
She's in an airplane. She can't see that. Is bedrock financial literacy stuff. Monthly budget. Get your expenses. Get your income down. Figure out where you can save. Make changes on the spending side to save. And I like that. Bill me first. You should write that like in your budget. Your name, bill, and whatever the amount is, just make it a part of your budget.
Like, I spend a lot of money on like experiences. Like, I'll go out and spend a bunch of money on food and like different bars and stuff. If I gotta buy something, and this is like, if it's a want, I'll wait for it to go on sale. Or another credit tip, you get a card that has price protection. So like, say you buy something and the price drops within like 90 days. The city double cash, for example, has price protection. So you can do what's called price rewind. And if you find it cheaper within that 90-day period, they will refund you the difference in the statement credit. Like, I use Ebates.
Yeah,
I did a whole load of money off of Ebates, Be Frugal.
What are these credit cards?
No, these are like affiliate apps or whatever.
My father was very, I don't want to say cheap, frugal, and it was just, but mom, she told me, like, when you start working and you're getting money, always make sure that you have a budget within like the week, and you make that last for you for like a while, and you always do that. Pay yourself first, as well, and then you'll save. When your friends is going out, they might, get something. It's just like you may get something a little different. Like for instance, this year I stopped drinking, so I drink water now, and that will save me a lot more money as I'm going out and through the years.
I don't look at debt as like necessarily a bad thing. Excessive debt is a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think we all have debt at some point. I mean, if you own a house, you're perpetually in debt. You may not feel like it or whatever, but until it's paid off, the bank still owns it. You still owe money to somebody, so that's going to be like running debt. But once it gets to the point where it's excessive and you're trying to like rob Peter to pay Paul just to stay afloat,
Get out my head.
then then it's bad. But there's also like tricks with that too. So like I tell my friends all the time, take advantage of transfer offers that credit cards will give you, where if you have a high APR on one card, it may behoove you to find another card that has a long zero intro APR, transfer your debt to that card, and then use that time to pay it off without accruing interest.
Now, if you are fortunate enough to have a job that has a pension plan or something like that, or 401k or 403b or whatever, and you can borrow from there. She always said the two main places to borrow from would be your credit union, even though you don't like MCU, because they give you lower interest rates, and borrow from your pension. You get, you're paying yourself back. And I remember years ago I had paid off like whatever credit cards I had, and I borrowed from the pension. And the two things that were good about that is that I was paying myself back while still accruing money into the pension. And also, I didn't have to make the payments. It came directly out of my check, so I didn't feel it. When your money works for you. So when you have, whether it's a property or something that you can gain money from, I think that's wealth, because you're not necessarily always having to putting into something or something that's giving you more than you put in. So it has to be a positive more than a negative. That's how I see it.
Yeah, the assets will generate the liquid cash. I mean, so if you've got one, you'll get the other, or you should. Yeah.
I think when you know that you can be comfortable no matter what type of downfall or windfall that you might incur, just knowing that you would be able to handle a large financial event.
Say passive income, when it's just you're able to you're able to fund other businesses and have your money working for you.
To quote Chris Rock, Shaquille O'Neal is rich. The man that writes his checks is wealthy.
I love that.
Once you get to a certain point where you no longer have to worry about how the basic necessities to live are going to be provided, you're fine. I don't know about wealthy. That's like, think about Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and those guys. I think that's like wealth.
For us, I mean, when you start thinking long term, when you start thinking about marriage, when you start thinking about if you want to buy a house, when you start, these kind of long term serious purchases, if you will, then it's, I guess, the time, at least for me, was okay, let's talk about where we stand together financially, and just have those conversations. So that's kind of how we handle it. I'm still married.
I think it's important for each individual to have their own little discretionary funds, and then if you do want to contribute into a separate joint account, and then earmark that money for certain goals, retirement, whatever you want to do that. But I don't think everyone should be all in into one account. That sounds dangerous.
Is weighted based on your income. It's like, so I shouldn't have the same expectation of you if you make less than me. So a lot of times, like, hey, we should do things equally. I know you're putting in the max that you can put in based on what you make, so I shouldn't feel any way about it. So equal sometimes, like, oh no, I put up 2,000, you got to put up 2,000 too. You may not be able to do that financially, but you can probably do other things that benefit us. So worry about that. But I think that would be like a fair way to go. When would I bring it up though? I don't know. I'm an idiot. I have like creative way of doing stuff, so it might be like a joke that I write and leave on the mirror or something. Like that.
at least as much as you can get the company to match your contribution.
Yeah.
Because, each company gives a certain amount, they match what
Like
what
dollar
your
for dollar to
dollar
some
for
point.
50 cents to the dollar, so whatever you can leverage to get that, which essentially is free money.
Max that out.
You should max that out.
So, when you're young, starting off, and you don't have major bills or like children in the family, that's when you definitely should try to go to your max. Like I know for me within the DOE, I think we could go like a max of like 20-25%. And if you could afford it, if you don't have that many bills, put it in. And then you can always change it and decrease it as your lifestyle changes and you need to have more money available to you.
Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've that's worked in my favor a lot in my own personal experience. I've heard many success stories of people who got the job off of a little dish out.
But if you're around people that don't want better or don't see better, or looking at you as have made it and they're not there, they can't really help you because they are still struggling within themselves to find their opening to get there.
But then, if you're hanging out with people, the upper echelon, and you're trying to stunt with them and you're spending your whole paycheck, then where does that leave you?
Get used to, being venturing out, networking. That's very important. Regardless of whatever you feel, that's very important because it's just that's not something that's always as much taught in school, but that's something. It's a good tool for life in general.
Absolutely.
Strong believer in that, and it's just the more you get to doing that, you'll find yourselves in places that you didn't even think was possible.
At Berkeley, we have most of our grads, and you may know this, Chris, can do internships. And, obviously a part of that is to learn about the career that they want to pursue, but it's also a great opportunity to network, to get to know people in the industry and start building that kind of web of people that that could help you down the road with, careers. So, I think it's an art, networking. You got to be kind of like a go-getter personality. So if you're not, you got to kind of push yourself a little. But it's definitely a valuable skill in the workplace.
Yeah, I think part of me going into business, doing freelance work early, pushed me out there and forced me to go network. But I don't think there's anybody in the world that I can't relate to have a conversation with. So any room I walk into, I feel like I fit in there. And I try to impart to my friends, talk to everybody because you never know who you meet.
Borrowing is, there should be terms and conditions to it. I mean, you borrow, you typically sign a contract.
I was about to say there should be a
With your friend?
contract.
No, I mean,
sign that promissory note.
If you go to a bank or any formal lending, there are a set of conditions both parties have to abide by. You're with a friend, it's more informal.
Yeah.
There may be no you say you'll pay back in 10 days, 10 days becomes 2 months. What recourse do you have because you don't have a contract to have somebody enforce? So it can get kind of ugly, and it can damage a good relationship.
The key to borrowing money to people is that you have to be okay with the fact that you might not get it back.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford to lend it out because you need it for something else, then don't lend it. I don't care who it is. Because there's a possibility anything could happen. Forget them not wanting to pay you back. Something could happen to them and they get injured and they're out of work and they can't pay you. And so it's not a negligence on their end. It's just they're not capable. So don't lend if you can't afford to do so.
Are you giving big chunks or are you just giving them
I agree with you in terms of who the person is. And I think this happened to me one time where I got burned because the person I assessed, and from what I knew, the person financially was stable and had the ability to do it, and they didn't. So I took a hit.
Was it a big hit?
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah.
That's good size.
Are you guys friends still?
Hell no.
Yeah.
We look at $5, $10. Oh, that's not a lot of money. And if somebody borrows, let me borrow $5. It's like, okay, let me see if I can get 20. And then they get 20. Let me see if I get 100. And before you know it, the same person, they paid you back. So they show a pattern of paying you back, and then they hit you with, let me get 200. And they've shown you that they can do it, so you give it, and then that's the point when you don't get it back.
That's
right.
Your personal bank. It's similar to like, you know, what he's saying is like, you know, you gotta assess the person, and it's like if they're going to be willing to pay you back, or you know, it's just you might have to, like, you know, that laptop. All right, let me hold that until you could pay it back.
Oh, you take something.
Oh, you can collateral.
I'm just saying. It's just like, cause it's like when it it's like, especially like if it's somebody that
Career
you may be like cool with, but it's like you know that this is all right. Yeah. Oh, you said tomorrow. That was a couple months ago. Okay, so like I still have this, you know. So. Yes,
Absolutely.
indeed. Yes, definitely. There's so many people where it's just like, you know, they have on these expensive sneakers, shoes, whatever. It's like, fam, you have no food in your house. Number one, you have no food in your house.
Holding
Like,
singles up
what
to
are
the
you
air,
doing?
like, hello, I can't hear you.
Like just so stupid.
So before I got here, I was reading a thing about Facebook in general, where Mark Zuckerberg is like, you know, undertaking. He wants to make the interactions more meaningful on Facebook, and they did a survey, I think, of like 1,500 people under age 30 of like the major 5 social networks, which was Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And they said 4 out of the 5, if they scroll their timelines passively, made them unhappy because of what they saw their friends doing.
That's true.
And YouTube was the only one that didn't make it because their system of interaction is different. It's really just you watching a video, and the comments are only like, you know, under that. You may not venture into the comments, but every other social network made them unhappy.
For some people, it helps to get them income because there's a lot of people who get sponsors. Like I follow people like that deal with like makeup and like hair and clothing and different things, and they really don't do anything. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, I could do this. You can just go in there and talk about something, and once you have a following, then sponsors want to pay you because then they know that if their advertisements go on your page, people will go and buy it. So it's very different. So there's like that half that people are just stunting, and then there's people who are actually really making business. As Cardi B says, money moves.
Okay.
I know that you like live in like a 1-bedroom apartment with like 10 people.
Right.
You have on like a Balenciaga belt and like Balenciaga shoes,
You bought for your cousin.
and you're like pouring out Ace of Spades on like people for their birthday or whatever. Like, why are you doing this? I don't even need status. I take the other 3.
Right.
Yeah.
If I could be like rich anonymously, I'd love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Migos said I'd rather
Fewer
be
friends
rich than
asking you for money.
famous.
Yeah. Like if I won the lotto, like one of the first things I'd do is probably change my phone number and like
There we go.
go underground. I can always get liquid money from an asset.
Yeah.
But whatever liquid money is at that time, it's just liquid money.
Yeah.
The value isn't going to go up or down. It just is what it is. An asset could probably make me some more money. It'll probably, especially if it's a house in New York, the value's going to go up. I could get rid of that house and get liquid money.
To know that there's something in the bank that you could draw from at any given time.
And the kind of assets also.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really important because there's certain assets that, you know, will fluctuate in value, that the value might go down over a period of time. Like we all know, like real estate, you know, for the most part, is something that you will be pretty good with. Even if the market changes, if you hold on to it, it in the future can, you know, the things like, again, I'm going to quote something Jay-Z said in his song. He said if he knew that he would have bought something in Dumbo.
Oh, yeah, the observable.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you know, and he's like, Dad, I wish I did because then now it's worth more. So sometimes you got to take that risk. You know, if you could afford to take that risk and buy into something, do it now because you don't know what the future holds. And I mean, if it seems like it's not going to work out, then sell it. But at least you have something to make that decision with.
Humble yourself, find somebody that knows more about it than you and learn as much as you can. And I've learned a lot today as well.
Learning to live within one's means is definitely something that I'm taking into 2018. I think it's important for people to take into their future.
I'd like to thank you guys for putting this together because I think
Yes.
it's an important topic, and I definitely think we don't, as a society, don't talk enough about it. So thank you, and I've learned a lot of great stuff. I got a lot of new apps that I got to
Stop and think about how you spend your money, and just.
That's
do
what
a
I was
little-
gonna say. That's
yeah.
that's how I was gonna write mine.
Little reflection, little time. Just take the time to figure it out, and the payoff will be, in most cases, a rich reward.
As said several times, the most important thing is credit. And you gotta save. And reflect. Reflection is important.
And the other R word. Research.
Research. Oh yeah. I forgot. You are the most important part of your financial literacy, your financial freedom. Pay yourself first. Your bill. You're important. The same way you pay for your phone and everything else. Pay yourself. Investing in your education. I think education is important. Everyone doesn't have to go to higher education, but figure out what that path is, whether it's going to school or taking a trade. But figure out how are you going to be able to build on yourself, become a better person. And something that's key, don't wait until the next year or the next big moment. Like even when the year started, everyone was like, oh, 2018, new me. And it drove me crazy. I'm like, why do you gotta wait till January 1st? Like start today.
I gotta wait till Monday.
If you want to make a change, and I'm going to close it by saying this, if you want to make a change at that moment that you feel the change is necessary.
Set a plan. Work towards it, and or set a goal rather. Work toward it, and then once you hit that goal, readjust and set whatever your next goal is. Because I think people will get one thing in mind. It's like, all right, I've hit this, and they have nowhere to go from there. So if your goal is to buy a house, you need to do what's necessary to get your finances in order to go buy that house. If it's to travel, take X amount of trips in a year, you have to do what's necessary to take those trips. But definitely you have to set the goal first and, put in the work to get there.